Hey everyone, I'm here. In this episode, we get to find out why it's a really bad idea to mistake the teddy bear for a weapon. This is an original story by me. As always, leave your feedback in the comments below and share what you liked about the story or what suggestions you have for improvement. If you enjoy my work, please consider supporting me through memberships. I'll put the link in the description. But without further ado, let's jump into the story. Humanity had been in the Alpha Quadrant for 127 years. It was strange that it took us so long to find aliens, but even stranger that they didn't find us first. Yes, there were millions of human colonies across hundreds of star systems, and each one of those colonies was big enough that we should have been detected long before we found heck, even we managed to detect them despite having no idea where to look for signs of life. It was a huge stroke of dumb luck when Captain Robert Floyd spotted their gas giant system from 5 light years away. A freak gravitational lensing event allowed him to see the planet orbiting that gas giant, and when he reported it to Starfleet, they believed him because his readings checked out. After a decade in transit, the Federation sent out an away team to make first contact with this. The away team consisted of 4 people: Captain Ronald Booker, Commander 10, Dr. Beverly Crusher, and Lieutenant Reginald Barclay. The aliens were humanoid, but had silver skin, large black eyes, and wore these flowing robes. They called themselves the and after the initial pleasantries, Dr. Crusher wanted to study their physiology. The Ceruleans had no objections and invited her back to their city. As they walked through the marketplace, the Ceruleans were shocked by how much trash humans left behind. One dropped his drink, another tripped over a discarded food wrapper, and a third nearly got stabbed by a hypodermic needle that someone had thrown on the ground. "I've never seen such careless behavior," said one of the civilians. "It's hard to believe that anyone could be so wasteful." Another shook his head in disapproval. "Such a shame. Their technology is impressive, yet they seem unable to control their baser instincts." The Ceruleans took the doctor and her party to their version of a hospital, more like a research center. The Ceruleans explained that they were fascinated by human physiology and wanted to study it further. Of course, Dr. Crusher agreed, but she also requested that she be allowed to run some tests on a few After all, she thought it would be rude not to reciprocate. The Ceruleans readily agreed. The following day, the Ceruleans were brought to the research center. They seemed nervous, but their fear quickly turned to shock when Dr. Crusher began running tests on them. She extracted samples of their blood, hair, and saliva. She scanned their brains and measured their reflexes. And all the while, the Ceruleans just stood there, taking it all in stride. "This is amazing," Dr. Crusher exclaimed. "Your bodies are so fascinating. Your blood is silver, your reflexes are lightning fast, and your brain activity is unlike anything I've ever seen." The Ceruleans stared at the machines, their eyes wide with wonder. "What about our weapons?" one of them finally asked. "We bring honor to our people by defending the weak and destroying our enemies. Surely you must have something similar." Dr. Crusher paused her examination and turned to face the She couldn't help but smile. These aliens were so innocent, so trusting. It was clear that they'd never encountered any truly dangerous species, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of superiority. "Weapons," she said, shaking her head. "You misunderstand. We don't need weapons. We're not warlike people. We prefer to settle our disputes peacefully." The Ceruleans exchanged uneasy glances. "But surely you have some," one of them pressed. "Every species has its warriors. Surely the Federation has some form of defense against those who wish to do it harm." "Of course we do," Dr. Crusher replied. "But it's nothing like what you imagine. We don't use weapons. We use diplomacy." The Ceruleans looked at each other in disbelief. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. No weapons, no defense, no warriors. These humans were harmless. Meanwhile, back at the Enterprise, Captain Booker was meeting with Lieutenant Barclay in his ready room. They were going over the preliminary report from the away team when they received a transmission from Dr. Crusher. "Captain, I'm sorry to interrupt your meeting, but I need your assistance on deck. It's urgent." "Of course, Doctor," Captain Booker replied. "Lieutenant, please inform the others that I'll join them shortly." He then turned back to the view screen. "What seems to be the problem, Doc?" "It's the Ceruleans," Dr. Crusher replied, her voice tight with urgency. "They're preparing for war." "War?" Captain Booker echoed, confused. "What are you talking about, Doctor? We've been nothing but friendly to them. I can't believe they would even consider attacking us." "They're not attacking us, Captain," Dr. Crusher replied. "They're attacking each other." "What?" Captain Booker was taken aback. But why? They seemed so peaceful when I met them. They are peaceful, Captain, Dr. Crusher said. But their way of life is built on conflict. They thrive on war. It's in their nature. Well, that's certainly a relief, Captain Booker said with a chuckle. I was afraid for a moment there that we might actually have to defend ourselves. That would have been awkward. It's not funny, Captain, Dr. Crusher said, her voice sharp with frustration. These people are at war, and if we don't do something to stop them, they will destroy each other, and in the process, they could destroy our mission. I understand, Dr. Captain Booker said, his voice now serious. But what can we do? We can't just force them to end their war. It's not our place. We could try to reason with them, Dr. Crusher suggested. Maybe if we explain to them the folly of their ways, they'll see the error of their thinking. And if that doesn't work, Captain Booker asked, what then? Then we'll have to use force, Dr. Crusher replied. Force, Captain Booker echoed, taken aback. Are you sure that's wise, Doctor? These people are different from us. Their culture is alien to us. We don't know their customs or their traditions. We don't know their language. How can we possibly hope to defeat them in battle? We won't have to fight them, Captain, Dr. Crusher replied. We'll just have to stop their ships from leaving their atmosphere. Once their fleet is neutralized, we can land a party and bring them back to the ship. Then we'll talk to their leaders and try to convince them to end their war. That sounds like a plan, Doctor, Captain Booker said, a small smile returning to his face. But if they don't want to talk to us, what then? Then we'll have to use our phasers, Dr. Crusher said. Of course, Dr. Captain Booker replied. As you wish. A few hours later, Captain Booker and his party beamed down to the surface of the Silurian homeworld. They're met by a group of Silurians, led by their captain, Ronald Booker. The two captains exchanged greetings and pleasantries as they walked toward the Silurian city. So this is the legendary Captain Booker of the USS Enterprise, said the Silurian captain. I've heard so much about you. Likewise, Captain Booker replied with a smile. I've heard great things about the Silurian people. Your reputation precedes you. The Silurians exchanged uneasy glances. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. No weapons, no defense, no warriors. These humans were harmless. Suddenly, the Silurian captain stopped in his tracks. Wait a minute, he said. Why are you smiling? Why did you agree to come to our planet if you knew we were hostile? Hostile, Captain Booker echoed, confused. What are you talking about? We've been nothing but friendly to you. I can't believe you would accuse me of being hostile. You may not be hostile, Captain, the Silurian captain replied, but your crew most certainly is. They've disabled our communications array and are preventing our ships from leaving the planet. They've attacked our warriors and are holding our people hostage. Oh, yes, Captain Booker said, realizing what the Silurians must have witnessed. About that, I apologize for the misunderstanding, but you see, it's not that we wanted to attack your people. It's just that we needed to neutralize your fleet to stop your ships from firing on us. We only used non-lethal force to disable your ships. And as for holding your people hostage, well, that was just a precaution in case your warriors tried to attack us. The Silurian captain stared at Captain Booker. His eyes narrowed. You think we're fools? Humans, he finally said. You think we don't know that you're here to steal our technology? Steal, Captain Booker echoed, taken aback. No, that's not what we're here for. We're here to make first contact, not steal your technology. In fact, we're here to learn about your culture and maybe, just maybe, help you end your destructive war. The Silurian captain snorted. Help us end our war, he scoffed. You wouldn't know the meaning of war if it hit you in the face. You humans are soft. You live in luxury. You've never known the thrill of battle, the camaraderie of your fellow warriors, the glory of victory. We may not know the thrill of battle, Captain Booker replied, but we do know the horror of war. We've seen what it can do to a species. We've seen what it can do to a planet, and we don't want that for you. The Silurian captain stared at Captain Booker, his eyes blazing with anger. You don't know the meaning of war, he hissed. How dare you come to our planet and tell us how to live? We don't want to tell you how to live, Captain Booker said calmly. We just want to help you end your pointless war. Pointless, the Silurian captain spat. You think our war is pointless? You haven't lived long enough to understand what it means to be a warrior, to defend one's honor, to fight for one's people. Our war is not pointless. It is our way of life. And what happens when one of you survives? Captain Booker asked. What happens when you win your battles? Do you get to enjoy the spoils of victory? Do you get to reap the rewards of your hard-fought battles? Of course not, the Silurian captain replied. The survivor brings honor to his house. He is celebrated by his people. He is revered as a hero. And what does he have to show for it? Captain Booker asked. A dead planet, a dying race. That's what he has to show for it. A world once rich with life is now a barren wasteland. A race once proud and powerful is now on the brink of extinction. The Silurian captain's eyes widened. He hadn't thought of it like that before. He had always seen the war as a necessary evil, a means to an end. But what was the point of winning the war if it meant the destruction of everything he held dear? Humans, the Silurian captain said, his voice barely a whisper. I had thought you were here to steal our technology, to exploit our people, to destroy our planet. But perhaps it is we who have been the fools. Perhaps it is we who have been the aggressors. Perhaps it is we who have been the destroyers. That's right, Solarian, Captain Booker said, his voice soft. You've been the destroyers, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can choose to stop the war. You can choose to build a better future for your people. You can choose to honor your dead by making sure their sacrifice was not in vain. The Silurian captain looked at the humans before him. He saw their sincerity, their compassion, their empathy. He saw their strength, their courage, their determination. He saw their willingness to help, their desire to heal, their commitment to peace. And in that moment, he knew they were right. The war had to end. His people had suffered enough. It was time for them to move forward, to build a better future, to honor their dead. He looked back at his people and raised his head high. My friends, he said, his voice ringing with conviction. It is time for us to end this war. It is time for us to build a better future. It is time for us to bring peace to our world. And with that, the Silurian captain turned and walked away from the humans, leaving them to wonder what the future would hold for the